We got a complaint. You need to leave. A complaint? We just ordered dinner. People like you don't belong here. Let's go. People like us? We're paying customers.
Officer David Carter thought he was responding to a legitimate complaint. White patrons uncomfortable, black family causing a scene, standard call to an upscale restaurant. In his mind, it was routine peacekeeping. But when he walked into Romano's Italian Bistro on June 15, 2024, saw a well-dressed black family quietly eating dinner at a corner table, and ordered them to leave based on an anonymous complaint that didn't exist, he made a catastrophic mistake captured on the restaurant's security cameras. The family he humiliated was the Bradford family. James Bradford, a 42-year-old civil rights attorney, his wife Dr. Patricia Bradford, a pediatric surgeon, and their 3 children celebrating their daughter's 8th birthday. And what Carter didn't know was that the entire incident was captured on 6 security cameras positioned throughout Romano's dining room, that the restaurant owner would intervene and defend the family, that 12 other diners would provide witness statements, and that his actions would cost the city $1.3 million and end his law enforcement career forever. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps us bring more truth to light. Officer David Carter had been with the Denver Police Department for 7 years. He joined the force in 2017 after 2 years of community college and 6 months at the police academy. By June 2024, he was assigned to the Cherry Creek Patrol District, Denver's wealthiest neighborhood filled with upscale restaurants, boutiques, and million-dollar homes. And over those 7 years, he'd been named in 8 formal complaints alleging racial bias and excessive response to minor incidents. 6 of those complaints came from black residents or business owners who alleged Carter had overreacted to situations involving people of color in predominantly white spaces. All 8 complaints had been reviewed by Internal Affairs. 7 were dismissed as unsubstantiated. 1 resulted in a verbal counseling in 2022 after Carter detained a black doctor leaving a hospital for suspicious behavior. No disciplinary action was taken. Department data obtained during litigation revealed Carter's pattern. From 2020 to 2024, Carter responded to 214 calls in the Cherry Creek district involving complaints about disruptive or suspicious persons. Internal analysis showed that 162 of those calls, 75.7%, involved complaints about black or Hispanic individuals, in a district where minorities made up 18% of the population. Of those 214 responses, only 19 resulted in actual violations, an 8.9% rate, which meant over 91% of the people Carter confronted had done nothing wrong. Carter had a specific response pattern. He believed complaints from white residents in affluent areas without question, assumed people of color were out of place in upscale establishments, and used his authority to remove them rather than investigate whether complaints had merit. 2 other officers had expressed concerns about Carter's approach to supervisors. One wrote in a 2023 email, "Carter seems to automatically side with white complainants regardless of evidence. He assumes minorities are problems without investigating." Nothing was done. Carter's supervisors valued his responsiveness. High call volume, quick resolutions. The fact that he was violating citizens' rights didn't matter. Until June 15, 2024, when Carter confronted the wrong family, a civil rights attorney who knew exactly what his rights were and had the resources to fight back. Romano's Italian Bistro was a high-end restaurant in Denver's Cherry Creek neighborhood. Established in 2018. White tablecloths, Italian imported wines, entrees ranging from $45 to $95. The kind of place Denver's wealthy residents went for anniversaries, business dinners, special celebrations. Owner Frank Romano had installed a comprehensive security system when he opened, 6 high-definition cameras covering every angle of the dining room. Camera 1 covered the entrance and hostess stand. Camera 2 covered the bar area. Cameras 3 through 6 covered different sections of the dining room, with overlapping fields of view ensuring no blind spots. The system recorded continuously in 1080p high definition. Audio was captured clearly in the relatively quiet dining environment. The footage was stored on a server for 90 days before being overwritten. On the evening of June 15, 2024, all 6 cameras were functioning perfectly. The Saturday evening dinner rush. Excellent lighting from overhead chandeliers and table candles. Crystal clear video and audio quality. What those cameras captured would become the centerpiece of a federal civil rights lawsuit, and the reason Frank Romano would testify against a police officer in open court. At 7:32 p.m. on June 15, 2024, James and Patricia Bradford arrived at Romano's with their 3 children, Emma, age 8, Michael, age 6, and Sophie, age 4. They'd made a reservation 2 weeks earlier to celebrate Emma's birthday. James Bradford was wearing a tailored navy suit with a white shirt and tie. Patricia wore an elegant burgundy dress. The children were dressed in their best clothes. Emma in a pink dress, Michael in a button-down shirt and slacks, Sophie in a white dress with matching shoes. They were shown to table 14, a corner table in the main dining room. Security camera 4 had a perfect view of their table. Camera 5 covered the approach from the entrance. Camera 3 captured the wider dining room context. The Bradford family sat down. A waiter brought menus. The children colored on the kids' menus the restaurant provided. James and Patricia looked over the wine list. Completely normal family dinner. At other tables around the dining room, approximately 35 other diners were eating. Mostly white couples and families. Quiet conversations. The gentle clink of silverware on plates. Classical music playing softly in the background. At 7:41 p.m., a white couple at table 9, Robert and Linda Stevens, finished their meal. They approached the hostess stand where Frank Romano was greeting incoming guests. Camera 1 captured their conversation clearly. "Excuse me," Linda Stevens said quietly to Romano. "We hate to complain, but there's a family at that corner table that seems out of place. They're very loud. It's disrupting our meal." Frank Romano looked toward table 14. Camera 4 showed the Bradford family at that exact moment. James cutting Sophie's bread into smaller pieces. Patricia helping Emma read the menu. Michael quietly coloring. Not a single person speaking above a conversational tone. "I'm sorry," Romano said carefully, "but I don't hear any disruption from that table. They seem to be having a quiet dinner." "Well, we just think this restaurant has certain standards," Robert Stevens said. "Perhaps you should speak with them." Romano's expression, captured on camera 1, showed clear discomfort. "I appreciate your feedback, but I don't see any issue. If there's a specific problem." "Never mind," Linda Stevens said coldly. "We'll call someone who will handle it." They left the restaurant. Camera 1 captured them getting into their car in the parking lot visible through the front windows. At 7:52 p.m., Officer David Carter received a dispatch call. The audio was recorded. Unit 23, respond to Romano's Italian Bistro, 2847 East 2nd Avenue. Report of disruptive patrons refusing to leave. Carter's response, also recorded. Unit 23, en route. At 7:58 p.m., Carter entered Romano's. Camera 1 captured his arrival. He wore his full uniform, gun visible on his hip, radio on his shoulder. He walked directly to the hostess stand where Romano was standing. "I got a call about a disturbance," Carter said. His voice was captured clearly on camera 1's audio. "Officer, there's no disturbance," Romano said immediately. "I had a couple complain, but honestly, I think it was just they didn't like seeing a black family here." Carter's expression, visible on camera 1, hardened. "Where's the family?" "Table 14, but please, there's no problem. They're just having dinner." Carter walked past Romano. Camera 5 captured his approach across the dining room. Other diners noticed. Conversations quieted. People turned to watch. Carter reached table 14. Camera 4 captured the entire interaction from the side. Camera 3 captured it from a wider angle, showing surrounding tables. "Excuse me," Carter said loudly. His voice carried across the dining room. "We got a complaint. You need to leave." James Bradford looked up from his menu. His expression, captured clearly on camera 4, showed immediate confusion. "A complaint? Officer, we just ordered dinner." "People like you don't belong here," Carter said. His voice was clear on all 3 audio feeds. "Let's go." The phrase hung in the air. Camera 3 captured other diners' reactions, shocked expressions, some people pulling out phones. "People like us," James said slowly. His lawyer training kicked in immediately. "Stay calm. Document everything." "Officer, we're paying customers. We have a reservation. We've done nothing wrong." "I'm not going to argue," Carter said. "You're leaving. Now." Patricia spoke up, her voice quiet but firm. "Our daughter is celebrating her birthday. We've been sitting here for 20 minutes. What exactly did we do?" Carter's hand moved to his belt, near his handcuffs. "Ma'am, don't make this difficult. Gather your things and leave, or I'll remove you." 8-year-old Emma started crying. The sound was captured on the audio feed. Sophie, age 4, clung to her mother. Frank Romano appeared suddenly, walking quickly from the front. Camera 5 captured his approach. "Officer Carter, I'm the owner," Romano said firmly. "These people are my guests. They have not caused any disturbance. They have every right to be here." Carter turned to Romano. "Sir, I received a complaint from the Stevens couple." "I know," Romano interrupted. "And I told them there was no problem. There is no problem. This family is welcome in my restaurant. I have authority to remove disruptive patrons." "They're not disruptive." Romano's voice rose slightly. "They're sitting quietly with their children having dinner. The only disruption is you demanding they leave for no reason." Camera 3 showed the entire dining room watching now. At least 6 people had phones out, recording. A 7th camera angle from civilian phones documenting everything. James stood up slowly, his hands visible. "Officer, my name is James Bradford. I'm a civil rights attorney. I know my rights. We have done nothing illegal, nothing disruptive, nothing that gives you cause to remove us. If you force us to leave, that's a violation of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Title II, which prohibits discrimination in public accommodations." Carter's face flushed. Camera 4 captured the moment clearly, the realization that he'd confronted someone who knew the law. "Mr. Romano," James continued, still calm. "Do you want us to leave?" "Absolutely not," Romano said immediately. "You're welcome here. Please, sit down. Finish your dinner. It's on the house." Carter stood there, caught. Other diners were watching, recording. The owner was defending the family. A civil rights attorney was calmly citing federal law. "This isn't over," Carter muttered. He turned and walked out. Camera 5 captured his exit. Camera 1 showed him leaving the restaurant and getting in his patrol car. The Bradford family sat back down. Emma was still crying. Patricia held her close. The entire dining room had gone silent. Romano approached the table. "I am so sorry. That should never have happened. Please, your entire meal is complimentary. Dessert, wine, everything." "Thank you," James said quietly. "But Mr. Romano, I'm going to need copies of your security footage." "You'll have them tonight," Romano said without hesitation. "Should restaurant owners be required to stand up to police when they're clearly wrong? Drop your answer below." Because what happened next wasn't just about one family's dignity. It was about exposing a pattern that had gone unchecked for years. The Bradford family finished their meal. Other diners approached their table to apologize, to express support, to offer to serve as witnesses. Romano personally brought out a birthday cake for Emma, chocolate with pink frosting, candles lit, the entire staff singing happy birthday. But the celebration was hollow. Emma had stopped crying, but she kept asking, "Daddy, why did that policeman say we don't belong here?" James had no good answer for an 8-year-old. At 9:17 p.m., the Bradford family left Romano's. Romano walked them to their car personally. "I'm sending you all the security footage tonight. Every camera angle. And I'll testify if you need me to." "Thank you," James said. "You didn't have to stand up for us." "Yes, I did," Romano said firmly. "That's what decent people do." James drove his family home. The 20-minute drive was quiet. Patricia held his hand. The children fell asleep in the back seat. At 10:03 p.m., James's phone pinged. An email from Romano with 6 video files attached. Each camera angle. Each showing the entire incident from a different perspective. James stayed up until 2 a.m. watching the footage. All 6 angles. Taking notes. Documenting every moment. Every word Carter said. Every witness who recorded on their phones. The timestamps. The clear lack of any disturbance before Carter arrived. By 2:30 a.m., James had drafted a preliminary complaint. By 3 a.m., he'd emailed it to 3 civil rights attorney colleagues asking for their input. By 9 a.m. the next morning, Sunday, June 16, 2024, James had responses from all 3. All 3 said the same thing. "This is the most documented case of discrimination I've ever seen. File it." On Monday, June 17th, James contacted the Denver Police Department Internal Affairs Division. He filed a formal complaint against Officer David Carter. He included bullet operator written account of the June 15th incident. Bullet operator 6 security camera videos from Romano's. Bullet operator contact information for Frank Romano as a witness. Bullet operator contact information for 12 other restaurant patrons who'd witnessed the incident and agreed to provide statements. Bullet operator screenshots of social media posts where 6 diners had posted their phone recordings. Bullet operator citation of relevant federal civil rights laws violated. Internal Affairs opened an investigation that same day. The speed was unusual. Typically, complaints took weeks to process. But this complaint came from a civil rights attorney with video evidence and a restaurant owner willing to testify against an officer. The investigating officer was Lieutenant Sarah Chun, a 16-year veteran known for taking civil rights complaints seriously. She reviewed the security footage within 24 hours. On June 19th, Lieutenant Chun interviewed Frank Romano at his restaurant. The interview was recorded. Mr. Romano, in your professional opinion, was the Bradford family causing any disturbance? None whatsoever, Romano said. They were one of the quietest tables we had that night. The children were well behaved. The parents were polite. There was zero reason for anyone to complain except racism. And Officer Carter's response. He walked in with his mind made up. He didn't ask me what happened. He didn't observe the family. He just demanded they leave. When I told him they were welcome in my restaurant, he threatened to remove them anyway. You told him they were welcome? Multiple times. I made it crystal clear these were my invited guests. He didn't care. On June 20th, Chun interviewed 4 of the diners who'd witnessed the incident. All 4 statements were consistent. Bullet operator the Bradford family had been quiet and polite. Bullet operator Officer Carter had been aggressive and inappropriate. Bullet operator Carter's statement, "People like you don't belong here," was clearly racist. Bullet operator Frank Romano had defended the family. Bullet operator the only disturbance was caused by Carter's arrival. On June 22nd, Chun pulled Carter's complete personnel file. She found the 8 previous complaints. She found the email from another officer questioning Carter's bias. She found the statistical data showing Carter's pattern of responding to complaints about minorities in affluent areas. On June 25th, Chun submitted her findings to the Chief of Police. Officer Carter violated department policy, likely violated federal civil rights law, and created significant liability for the city. His actions were not based on any legitimate law enforcement purpose. His statement, "People like you don't belong here," demonstrates racial animus. I recommend immediate termination and referral to the district attorney for potential criminal charges. James Bradford didn't wait for the internal investigation to conclude. On July 8, 2024, 23 days after the incident, he filed a federal civil rights lawsuit. James Bradford, Patricia Bradford, Emma Bradford, Michael Bradford, and Sophie Bradford versus Officer David Carter, the City of Denver, and the Denver Police Department. The complaint was 67 pages. It detailed the June 15th incident with timestamps. It included still frames from all 6 security cameras. It presented Carter's complaint history. It included statistical analysis of Carter's response pattern. It had 12 witness statements from other diners. Charges: bullet operator violation of Title II of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, discrimination in public accommodations. Bullet operator violation of 42 U.S.C. Section 1983, deprivation of rights under color of law. Bullet operator violation of the 14th Amendment, denial of equal protection. Bullet operator intentional infliction of emotional distress. Bullet operator violation of Colorado's public accommodations law. Bullet operator violation of Denver municipal civil rights ordinances. Damages sought: $1.3 million plus injunctive relief requiring police training reforms. The lawsuit specified damages. Bullet operator $500,000 for humiliation and emotional distress to the family. Bullet operator $300,000 for trauma to the 3 minor children. Bullet operator $200,000 in punitive damages against Carter personally. Bullet operator $300,000 in punitive damages against the city for systematic failures. The case made local news immediately. National news picked it up 2 days later. Civil rights attorney's family kicked out of restaurant by police became a viral story. The 6 security camera videos were released publicly as part of the court filing. They were viewed over 8 million times in the first week. The city of Denver's attorneys moved quickly to settle. They knew they had no defense. 6 cameras, 12 witnesses, a restaurant owner testifying against the officer, a clear statement of racial bias captured on audio, an attorney plaintiff who knew exactly what laws were violated. First settlement offer, August 2nd, 2024, $250,000. Bradford refused. "This isn't about money," James told the city's attorneys. "This is about my children watching a police officer tell their father he doesn't belong in a restaurant." This is about making sure no other family has to experience that humiliation. We go to trial unless you meet our terms. Full damages plus mandatory reforms. Second offer, August 19th, $600,000. Bradford refused. Third offer, September 10th, $900,000 plus Carter's termination. Bradford refused. You're not hearing me, James said. Carter's termination isn't a bargaining chip. It's the minimum requirement. We want systemic reforms. We want training. We want accountability. And we want the full $1.3 million to send a message that this behavior costs cities real money. On October 15th, 2024, 4 months after the incident, the city capitulated. Final settlement, $1.3 million plus comprehensive reforms. Settlement terms. Financial. Bullet operator $1.3 million paid to the Bradford family. Bullet operator $500,000 for James and Patricia for humiliation and violation of civil rights. Bullet operator $100,000 each for Emma, Michael, and Sophie, held in trust until age 18, for trauma and emotional distress. Bullet operator $300,000 in punitive damages acknowledging systematic failures. Bullet operator all legal fees paid separately. Personnel actions. Bullet operator Officer David Carter terminated immediately. Bullet operator Carter permanently barred from law enforcement in Colorado. Bullet operator Lieutenant Thomas Gray, Carter's supervisor who dismissed previous complaints, demoted to patrol officer. Bullet operator mandatory review of all 8 prior complaints against Carter with apology letters sent to all complainants. Systemic reforms. Bullet operator mandatory 40-hour implicit bias training for all Denver police officers. Bullet operator specialized training for officers assigned to affluent districts on recognizing racial bias in complaints. Bullet operator new policy. Officers must independently verify complaints before taking enforcement action. Bullet operator body cameras required for all public accommodation responses. Bullet operator civilian oversight board given authority to review all discrimination complaints. Bullet operator quarterly public reporting of complaint responses broken down by race of complainant and subject. Bullet operator zero tolerance policy. Any officer with verified racial bias violations faces immediate termination. Bullet operator partnership with local civil rights organizations for ongoing training and oversight. Public accountability. Bullet operator public apology from the police chief to the Bradford family. Bullet operator public acknowledgement of Carter's pattern and the department's failure to address it. Bullet operator town hall meetings in minority communities to address police community relations. The settlement was announced at a press conference on October 16, 2024. James Bradford stood at a podium with his wife and 3 children. Frank Romano stood with them. This settlement isn't about money, James said. It's about dignity. It's about my children learning that when someone violates your rights, you stand up and fight back. It's about every black family in Denver knowing they have the right to eat dinner in peace without being told they don't belong. He paused, looking at his daughters. Emma asked me why the policeman said we don't belong. Today I can tell her, because he was wrong. And now everyone knows he was wrong. And he lost his job because he was wrong. And the city paid $1.3 million because they let him stay wrong for 7 years. Officer David Carter was terminated on October 16, 2024. 7 years of service, pension contributions, career advancement, all gone. But his consequences didn't stop there. The Colorado Peace Officer Standards and Training, POST, Board revoked his law enforcement certification permanently on November 3, 2024. He could never work as a police officer anywhere in Colorado. The viral videos, 8 million views and climbing, made him unemployable in law enforcement nationally. Every department ran background checks showing his termination for civil rights violations. Carter tried to get work in private security. 3 companies rejected him after seeing the restaurant videos online. His face was too recognizable. The phrase, "people like you don't belong here," followed him everywhere. By January 2025, Carter was working at a warehouse distribution center making $17 per hour, less than a third of his police salary. He filed for bankruptcy in March 2025. Legal fees from the settlement, loss of income, and his wife filing for divorce left him financially destroyed. Carter is 35 now, in early 2026. He still works at the warehouse. He's still recognized occasionally. The video still follows him. He'll always be known as the cop who kicked a family out of a restaurant on a child's birthday. Systemic changes. The Denver Police Department underwent comprehensive reform. The implicit bias training became a model other departments adopted. The Civilian Oversight Board reviewed 147 complaints in its first 6 months, finding patterns of bias in 23 cases. 8 officers received additional training. 3 were terminated. Lieutenant Thomas Gray was demoted on October 16, 2024. He'd been 2 years from retirement with full benefits. The demotion cut his pension by 35%. He retired in February 2025, bitter that he'd been held accountable for ignoring complaints. Restaurant impact. Frank Romano became a local hero. His decision to defend the Bradford family and provide security footage brought national attention. Romano's restaurant saw a 340% increase in business in the months following the incident. People came specifically to support a business owner who'd stood up for what was right. Romano used the increased revenue to create a scholarship fund for minority students pursuing hospitality careers. The Romano Dignity Scholarship awarded $25,000 to 5 students in its first year. The Bradford family used $200,000 of their settlement to establish the Bradford Family Justice Fund, providing support for families who experience discrimination but lack resources to fight back legally. James Bradford became a national voice on police accountability. He testified before the Colorado State Legislature on police reform bills. He gave keynote speeches at civil rights conferences. Patricia Bradford continued her work as a pediatric surgeon. She also began speaking to medical groups about implicit bias in healthcare. Emma, Michael, and Sophie, now 9, 7, and 5 in early 2026, have trust funds that will help pay for college. But more importantly, they learned that when someone violates your rights, you stand up, you document, and you fight back. The family still lives in Denver. They've been back to Romano's many times. They're always welcomed warmly. They've never been harassed by police again. The 6 security camera videos became training materials in police academies, law schools, and civil rights organizations nationwide. They're used to show how racial bias operates, how witnesses can intervene, and how documentation changes outcomes. The case established important precedent in Colorado courts about the Civil Rights Act's application to police removal of customers from public accommodations based on discriminatory complaints. Restaurant associations across Colorado adopted dignity policies, formal commitments to refuse discriminatory requests from patrons and to support all customers' right to equal service. 2 years later, the reforms implemented in Denver became a model. Chicago, Seattle, and Portland adopted similar civilian oversight structures and implicit bias training requirements. Officer David Carter is 35, working warehouse shifts for $17 an hour, permanently barred from law enforcement, still recognized from videos with 8 million views. The Bradford family is thriving. James is 44, Patricia is 43, still practicing law and medicine, still advocating for civil rights, still teaching their children that dignity is worth fighting for. And Frank Romano still owns his restaurant, still welcomes all families, still keeps his security cameras recording, because documentation, as he learned, changes everything. If this story showed you that standing up against discrimination requires courage from everyone, not just the victims but the witnesses, the business owners, the people with power to intervene, share it with someone who needs to understand that silence enables injustice. What would you have done if you were in that restaurant? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you believe that an 8-year-old girl should be able to celebrate her birthday without being told she doesn't belong, subscribe, because we're bringing you more stories where dignity won, where witnesses spoke up, and where accountability cost those who thought they were untouchable everything. Thanks for watching until the end. We'll see you in the next one.